Hey guys, Tim, the BTWN guy here, live for the first time on this YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. I have a story to tell you about my life as a teen escort. If you're not subscribed, please do. What I try to do here on this YouTube channel is share my experiences, what wisdom I have gained through 54 plus years of my life, and biblical concepts to help you be the best man that you can be. And thanks for stopping by. And I have the chat right in front of me, so I know that Josh Fritz is here calling me a big guy. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. I want to tell you about the craziest job I've ever had. Have you ever had a crazy job? Well, I've had a few of them. I've had jobs from pumping gas to television repair with my dad, to delivering pizzas, all kinds of jobs. I was a Word of Life Bible Club missionary for 10 years. I was a associate pastor for a couple years, and I've been a truck driver for 16 years now, and a lot of interesting jobs, but nothing compares to my job as a teen escort. And I am not joking. I am not in any way. I used to be a teen escort. The company I worked for was called Teen Escort, and what we did is we transported troubled teens against their will to full-time lockdown military style schools. Even today, I looked it up, there are still companies that do that. There's a company called U.S. Transport Service, and there's another company called U.S. Youth Transit Authority Secured Youth Transport. That was the name of the two different companies that I found online. But the company that I worked for was awkwardly named Teen Escort. And I have so many stories that I could tell you about what it's like to pick up a teenager and take them against their will to a place they don't want to go. Here's how it worked. The company was in Utah. They had connections, and people, if you're a parent, you could imagine if you imagine if you had a teenager. Maybe some of you have teenagers like this, or maybe you were a teenager like this. A teenager that does whatever he wants, goes when he wants to go, comes home when they want to come home, and doesn't matter what you as a parent want them to do. They decide not to go to school or to go to school, and they just do their own thing. And no matter what you tell them, they are rebellious, and you have no authority over them. They just do their own thing. They go away for days at a time. You don't know where they are, and then they show up, and you have no control over them. They're not doing well in school, and they're struggling in all aspects of their life. What do you do with a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, or even a 17-year-old who's like that? Well, one of your options is to enroll them in a military-style school where a very controlled environment. But that's one thing to enroll them there. You'd like them. Some parents would like to do that. They'd send their parents to these places. So, but how do you get a student or your teenager to agree? You can't get this type of a teenager to agree to get in the car with you and go to the facility. So you need help getting them to the facility. So that's what Teen Escort did. And that's what U.S. Transport Service and U.S. Youth Transit Authority does today. I'm sure there's other companies as well. So the parent would call Teen Escort, and then Teen Escort would give me the parent's information, and then I would call the parent. And here's how it would go down. And this is absolutely crazy. And I did this for over 3 years. I transported hundreds of teenagers that did not know I was coming and didn't want to know who I was and did not want to get in a car with me, but I took them to the school. So here's how it would go down. I'd call the parent and arrange a time for myself and another escort to come with me. So if it was a young man, I would hire another man to come with me. If it was a young lady, I would take a woman with me, and we would go to transport the teenager. So we would arrange to come to the house in the middle of the night, on a night that they knew the teenager would be in the home asleep, and we would arrange to come at the moment the teenager was the most sound asleep. So if that was 3 o'clock, that was 4 o'clock, whatever, we would show up. And we would show up at the house, meet with the parents. We would have the parents sign the proper papers to give us authority to do what we were about to do. And then we would instruct the parents that they needed to go into the bedroom and wake up their child and inform the child, hey, we love you. We want what's best for you, and what's best for you is for you to go to a place that's going to help you. It's a school, and here is Tim, and here is Carl, and they are going to take you to school now. And the parents, we would instruct the parents that after they have instructed and told the teen what they're supposed to do, that we instructed the parents to go in their bedroom, leave the room, and allow myself and the other escort to take the student into the car. And we would instruct the parents, no matter what you hear, no matter what happens, don't come out of your bedroom. And the reason why we did that was because the student's going to tug at their parents' hearts. Why are you doing this to me? And just really cry out and really try to manipulate their parents, and also just express their displeasure for what's happening. So we didn't want the parents to struggle with, the opportunity to change their mind. They're really, once we arrived there, well, they could always change their mind, but I suppose. But that's the practice that we did. Get the parents out of the way, and then the other escort and I would if it was a guy, we would always put handcuffs on him. If it was a compliant young lady, we would not put handcuffs on him. But to be completely honest with you, the worst transports that we ever had were girls. Not guys, but girls. Girls can be, young teenage girls can be really, really nasty. And if they were compliant once they were in the car, we would take the handcuffs off them. So, so many stories and so many things are going through my mind about the 3 years that I did this. Just amazing, crazy things that happened. Kids running, kids fighting, difficulty of getting control of them. It just, I could share so many things, but let me share one story, okay? And then I'll give you some application about this, because that's what I like to do. I like to share stories from my life and then give you something to think about and ponder and really actually even apply to your life. So we were picking up a young lady, 17 years old. She was rebelling against her parents. She lived in her parents' home, and she she wouldn't go to school, and the parents couldn't control her in any way. And we showed up. We had the parents signed. The parents signed. I think it was a mother and like a stepfather. They signed the paperwork. We've got authorization. So I say, okay, we're in the kitchen, and I say, okay, let's go up. What I need you to do is wake her up and tell her who we are and where we're taking her. See, that was key because we wanted these young people to know that we're not kidnapping them. We're working on the authority of their parents, and we're not strangers. Well, we are strangers, but we've been hired on behalf of their parents to take them to a facility. So this young lady, 17 years old, when we started to walk up to the bedroom, the stepfather said, "Oh, I got to see this. I got to see this." So we never had that reaction before from a parent, where he was kind of anxious to see, like, what's about to happen. Well, this had never happened before. As soon as the parent opened the door and turned the light on, this young lady was standing on her bed, screaming and swearing. And when I went to approach her, I don't remember which happened first. I know she spit in my face, and I know she swung a lamp. She hit me with a lamp. Two of those things happened. So she was up and energetic right away. It was as if the lights came on. When the lights came on, she knew exactly what was happening. So she was really, really hard to. We did put handcuffs on her, and she was probably the only person that her feet never hit the ground from her bedroom to the transport car, kicking and screaming. It was something else. And then, of course, as soon as I get control of her, she's making all kinds of accusations that I'm inappropriately touching her, which I definitely was not. So in front of her parents and with the witness of the female escort that was with me, we got her into the car. It was crazy. It was a really, really crazy thing that we used to do. So I forget where we picked her up, but the whole way there, she insulted the female escort. You think you're something special. just mind manipulating tactics from a teenager. And I can imagine that that's what the parents were going through. And this young lady insulted us for, I think it was 6 or 8 hour trip. It was a long trip to where we were taking her. But she was completely rebellious and out of control. Completely rebellious and out of control. And the parents didn't know what to do with her. Let me share you one more story. And this is like one of the most interesting transports. This family of this young man, they lived in the UK, and there was a family of 4, mom, dad, and 2 boys. And one of the boys was really rebellious, and they lied to him and said, "We're going to go to the United States for a week vacation." And in New York, in New York airport, we met them and sat down with them. The boy didn't even know who we were, of course. And his parents said, "You're not going on vacation. You're going to this school in Montana, of all places, in western Montana." So this kid had no idea. So he was compliant the whole way. He wasn't happy, but he was compliant. So we went to this one airport in New York, picked him up there, drove to Newark Airport, and flew to Seattle, Washington. If that's the state that's on the eastern side of Washington, Seattle, Washington, flew into there, rented a car, drove through Idaho and into Montana. The only time I've ever been to Montana, and dropped the kid off. So the kid came from the UK to New York, then driven from New York City to Newark, New Jersey, flown out of New York to Seattle. I don't even remember if we had a connecting flight. Crazy things like that. The craziest job, most interesting job that I ever had. There was never a boring moment. And we transported hundreds of kids, and there are so many stories. It was so interesting, but it was all because of these rebellious young people that were completely out of control. And on this YouTube channel, you can see the video of the first time I was arrested. I told you the story when I was 19 years old. Well, the second time I was arrested has to do with accusations during one of these transports. So maybe I'll tell that story one day. But I share all this because it's interesting and it's fun. It's part of my life. But I also want to kind of think about the fact that we are all like those rebellious teenagers. Some people who are adults, they're still rebellious. They still don't submit to authority. They struggle with jobs because they struggle with taking orders or direction from other people. They struggle in all their relationships. You've met guys like that who are adults, but they seem like middle school, I'm going to beat you up if you look at me the wrong way, and try and be a tough guy all the time, needing to prove themselves. They've never grown out of that teenage rebellious stage. It's kind of odd. But in reality, all of us need to move from that rebellious stage to that of submitting to authority. And those of us who are, quote unquote, well adjusted, we've learned to do that. We've learned to submit. We've learned to obey authorities. We've learned to put aside what we want so that we can please others, so that we can, earn a living, and show respect and be well adjusted in society. And we've grown, we've learned, and we've learned to get along with others. Not everybody has done that. So that's important. That's important that we grow out of that stage and realize that there are people in authority over us that we need to get along with, and to get along with them based on organizational structure or society structure, we must submit to them. We must obey what they say. That's the facts of life. And I hope you've come to that point where you're able to put aside your rebellious heart, your rebellious ways. And then on a spiritual level, I just want to challenge folks, because all of us, just like those rebellious teenagers, we're rebels against our Creator. We really are. We by our sin nature, we're rebellious teenagers, and we need correction, and we need heart transformation. And for those of you who watch who aren't Christians, I just encourage you that you need to be reconciled with the highest authority over your life, the God who created you. You need to have peace with Him, because you're born in a rebellious state. And unless you've repented and trusted Christ as your Savior, you're still in that rebellious state. And the scripture says that you're actually a child of wrath, and God would be fully just and righteous to punish you upon your death, to judge you based on your rebellion against Him. And it's a something I don't wish on you. So that's my encouragement, that if you don't know Christ, that you need to let go of that rebellion and submit to God's authority, confess that you're a sinner and that you've broken God's laws, and turn to Christ for forgiveness, because that's what Christianity is all about. And that's what you get here on this YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed, what you're going to get here is my life stories, my life's wisdom, biblical wisdom, exhortations on a Christian level, and also on a general sense as well. So thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping by. And Teen Escort. Have you ever had does anybody have a more interesting job than that? I don't think so. It was crazy. I was looking for a job, and I read the local newspaper in Syracuse, New York, and found an ad to transport troubled teens. And when I called them on the phone, they said they had a few questions. Have you ever worked with teenagers? I'm like, well, I've worked with teenagers for the last 14 years. They said, do you have a credit card, and can you fly in a plane and rent a car? Yes, I do. And then there was a couple other questions, and I hit all their points, and it was it was so interesting. So interesting. So many stories. Kids running, losing kids. And I'll share one more story. Picked up this, I just can't stop. This is the longest video on this channel already. So I picked up this young lady, must have been on Long Island, was on Long Island. Picked up this young lady, and her dad says, Tim, she's gonna run. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking in my mind, every parent says they're gonna run. Every parent says that their child's gonna run. And like 1 out of 10 runs. But he's like, Tim, she's gonna run. And she runs track. I'm like, okay, all right, yep, we've done this. Don't worry. I even remember the father's name. I think his name was John. So we pick up this young lady, put her in, and she's compliant. She's compliant. She didn't fight. She cried. So we put her in the car, and we're driving. We're down the road for like a half hour. This is a funny story. We're down the road about a half hour, and she says she has to go to the bathroom, which is always a problem. Always a problem. She says she's got to go. She says she's got to go to the bathroom. Got to go to the bathroom. Before that, she said her arms hurt with the handcuffs. Because I put handcuffs on her. Must have kept them on. And I put them in front. They're very, if you ever had handcuffs on, they're very painful. So I had the handcuffs on in front, and she said they were hurting, so I loosened them. And she's got to go to the bathroom. So we stop. We would always try to find a gas station that had an outside bathroom, because we don't want to be walking teenagers with handcuffs into any public building anywhere. So we stop, and I'm holding the handcuff. I only have one handcuff on her now, and I'm holding the handcuffs. We get out of the car, and my female escort says, she's gone. I'm like holding the handcuff. I'm like, no. All right. I don't know how old I was. This was like in 2002, 2003. no, 2003 or 2004, probably 2003. So I had to be 36 years old. 36 years old. I'm 54 today. So I'm 36 years old. And I'm completely active physically. Physically active. I'm super active physically. Playing basketball a lot, and that was pretty much the only thing I did. I did a lot of exercise playing basketball with the guy friends that I had. This is when I realized I wasn't in shape anymore. This was the day. So she's running. We're in, I think we're in Brooklyn or the Bronx or somewhere in New York City. I haven't mentioned this yet. She's African American, okay? And she is running, and I am trying to catch her. And I left the Escort in the car behind me, and now I'm running through the streets of New York City, a white guy chasing this young black lady. She had to be 16 or 17 years old. I'm chasing her, and she's running, and she's turning around buildings. And every time I go around the corner, she's farther away. And finally, we're going around corner after corner after corner, and she keeps running around these buildings. And I'm getting worried because every time I turn a corner, she's farther away. So finally, I turn a corner, and I can't see her. I lost her. And I'm thinking, her dad told me she's going to run. And she ran. She didn't have to go to the bathroom. Those handcuffs didn't hurt. She manipulated me. And now I've lost her. I couldn't see her anywhere. And so here I am, this white guy in the middle of this neighborhood. There's all black folks around me. And obviously I've been chasing this young lady, and I didn't ask anybody. Right in front of this one store, this black gentleman goes, she went in there. I'm like, I couldn't, like, wow, you just told me where she went. Thank you. I was like, thank you. So she went into this business. For all intents, it wasn't a TJ Maxx, but it was kind of like a store like that. At least I don't think it was. She ran in the front door, and then she ran into a small room, and she was climbing into the ceiling tiles to hide. And I come running in, and I'm like, did you see a young lady running here? Did you see somebody running here? And all of a sudden, I am under fire. There's security there. There's a security guard, and they're like, wait a minute, who are you? I'm like, she's with me. And she's like screaming, saying, she was I don't remember what she was saying, but it was kind of like she was accusing me of wrongdoing, of course. So that was a complete mess because the security guard took over. The security of that facility took over, checked my paperwork and got my story, got her story, and then we had to call the parent who told me she would run. It's like, that was embarrassing. And then, of course, we had to call the school, we had to call the parent, we had to call the local police. Everything went, oh, wow, I think we even had to go to the police station on that run before they would give us her. That was a long trip. It was a long trip. So we got her to the school. We messed that transport up. And then there was the transport where we picked a young lady up in Michigan, and we were taking her to northern New York, and it was quickest to scoot through Canada to get there, which was a bad idea. Like, we were going to save like 4 hours by going through Canada, but we should have stayed in the States and gone around the big lakes rather than above the big lakes, because when we got to the border control says, who are you? Oh, I'm I'm Tim. I live in New York. And who's the other transport? Oh, I'm. And then they look at the young lady in the back, who looks like Marilyn Manson, makeup all down her cheeks. They say, "Young lady, who are you and where are you headed?" She goes, "I want to go home." That was a bad day too. That was a bad day. We were detained in Canada. And for many years, I was banned from Canada because of this incident. But fun job. It paid really well, too. Paid really, really well. It's probably the best paying job I ever had. But very interesting. My life as a teen escort. Lots of stories. Fun times. Anyway, have you ever had an interesting job? Comment below. Thanks for listening, guys. Stay tuned to this channel. Subscribe if you haven't, of course. Till next time, take care. See ya.